Hello, my name is John Svek. Welcome to this All 24 video. Today, Coach Waterman and I are joined by Tom Bro. Thanks for being with us, Tom.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So we're going to do a highlight insight video. So we're going to go through a little bit of Tom's highlight tape from Team New Brunswick from last summer and see what we can see. So why don't we get right into it? Couple stats. Okay, so we'll be looking for you on there. We got the indicator. So here's the first play coming up at right tackle. All right. Can you talk us through that one a little bit, Tom, what the scheme was on this play? And
a lot of New Brunswick's running plays, we had RPO options on it. So what that is, it's like an outside zone right. So what I was doing there, your goal is to get to the outside shoulder of the lineman and steal him in. So that's what I do there. But what ended up happening is I like the club. I clubbed him and it ended up just knocking him right over.
And that's good. Hey, Tom, just to ask you, when that's a pretty tall order for tackles to try to reach on those outside zones and get those defensive ends, especially if they're a little wide. Is there anything that you sort of think about when you get the wider the guy is? And I know you change your angle a little bit, but what's the thoughts there?
I'd say my first thought is you have to give up ground to gain ground, if that makes sense. So what you have to do is you have to see what your angle is, and then you have to adapt.
And playing, you've played a little bit of American football style on Team Canada and stuff like that. Does it change with that yard in between?
Absolutely. The yard gives us so much of a cushion.
That's great. Let's move on to the next play here. Right tackle up top. A little bit of a pass set. So what are some of your thoughts going into a passing play like this, Tom?
I always try to look at the defender's hips to core, because those are the parts that aren't going to move on them. You got to time up your punch. You come in, you have to wait, time up your punch. One thing that you got to keep your feet. You can't overset. It's almost a patience, a game of patience. I have to think of it like that.
And Tom, when you think about pass setting and you're thinking about, how much plays into what the quarterback drop is and depth and the scheme of the play? How much do you consider when you're working on your pass set and your pass blocking play?
I consider the drop a lot. I consider the scheme, because the scheme kind of gives you how much time you got to block for. But yeah, you gotta consider where the quarterback is. You gotta beat him to the spot, really, or you gotta meet your defender, like your defensive end, to the spot.
And on a normal season, you have the advantage of game planning and prepping for your opponent a little bit. I know it's a little tougher in these rep tournaments. Things are coming so fast. You face so many different players. But do you find later in the game you're able to get a little bit of a scouting report on your opponent there?
For sure. I find, first quarter you got you can see his tendencies because you've already played almost every down against him.
There we are up top. All right, bit of a different run scheme on this one. What are we seeing here, Tom?
This is inside zone right. So our whole line zone step into the right.
And Tom, when you think about that split zone kind of action and going out and stepping out towards a defensive end, the width of the defensive end, I'm sure that changes your technique a little bit. The wider he is, what type of things you do when he's really wide?
When he's wider, I find I almost turn it more into like a down block. I turn my hips more, but if he's closer, I try to keep my hips square as possible, and then just get into him. So there, he's relatively close to me. But
what do you find, just as we get to these next plays, again, a kind of a rep tournament like this, the offensive line, you guys have so much cohesion and you need to work together so much. Do you find you're able to kind of foster that in these quick tournaments?
Yeah. Communication's key. So we talk a lot online.
All right, bit of a screenplay here. So what are you coached up on this one, Tom?
So we do on the screen for tackles, we're told to invite the upfield rush, and I actually kind of got beat here a bit. What I did after is I walled him off, so when he came up to the play, he just ran through a wall.
Into the goal line stuff. Good. What are some thoughts on goal line play there, Tom? This is where you got to really fight to get that last yard for the offense.
Yeah, you got to be physical. So here I think we have an inside zone left, and our quarterback ends up pulling it.
And Tom, just overall, when you're talking about your offensive line play and you're out at tackle, and you're especially coming from playing your Team New Brunswick and some high school stuff, how much communication goes on at your level in terms of offensive line play, and how much are you guys talking about changing blocking schemes on the line?
At New Brunswick, we do it quite a bit. At high school, it's harder because the guys are on different levels, right? So it's a little bit different there than it is when I play at Team New Brunswick, say, because all 5 guys are chatting away.
And do you guys often work your little codes of terminology with each other, like the partner beside you? You guys spend some time talking about, hey, have 2 or 3 different ways to call a different combo block and things?
Absolutely. We do it in O-line meetings. All 5 guys have our own stuff.
You guys have your own language on the line there. It's its own thing. All right, on to the next one here.
If you could say, I know you're looking at this play here. We'll watch it back, but just before we sort of watch the play, what I ask you is, I know for young players, it's always, you hear coaches pad level. And so what are some things you do to remind yourself to keep your pad level down? I know it's harder for bigger guys. So how do you sort of fight through 4 quarters of that?
What I kind of try to do is I think, like, don't get too much higher than how low you are in your stance. But obviously, it's a factor. Like, towards the end of the game, you're getting a little lazy, you're getting tired. It's a mental thing, really, to fight through that.
There you go. Here's an interesting one. So what again, coach asked you a little bit about the depth and the quarterback. So what are your thoughts on what kind of set you're going to use on that defender?
This guy's pretty wide, so I'll take a wider set to him. Here though, we have a half. I'm on the man side of the pro, but since we had the 1 tech, the guard ended up sliding over 2, so I'm all alone. I'm on my own island here. So I'm man up here. So here we have it's the same kind of thing. The 4-man slide. I'm on my island, and the D end starts to go inside. So all I can do there really is put my foot in the ground and then drive him across, like, the box. Really, I think I take him over to where the right guard is.
And Tom, do you play? Looks like there's a little cue draw here, but do you play with sort of technique adjustments during the game, throughout the game? Just subtle little things. Is that kind of what you do, or as you adjust to how the guy's playing you?
Yeah, always. Because a speed your guy, if it's a bigger, stronger guy, just going to try to bull rush.
All right, that's great. Let's get a couple more plays in here. Another inside move. So when you're handling a lot of stunts and stuff like that, does that change if you're you're playing a team that's going to stunt a lot? Does that change your mindset?
It does, yeah. You got to expect it. So you got to have your eyes up and ready. It's got to be a lot more communication with your guard there. But like on that last play, I'm on my own, so all I can really do is put my foot in the ground and just try to press and keep them there.
All right, let's watch one final play here, Tom.
Yep.
Again, another chance to be aggressive. How, O-lineman, how much more excited you get on a run play versus a pass play, or is that a myth? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's true. I like getting going. Like, obviously you can still be aggressive on the pass throws, but on the run plays, it's nothing else like it.
And I just, as a final question on my side of can you talk about the importance of that offensive line group being a cohesive group coming together?
Man, it all starts up front. Like, the games are won in the trenches. They all have to be on the same page, honestly. Like, the offensive line, like, it's one position as a whole. So all 5 guys have to be on the same page to be able to actually get stuff done.
Well said.
Very well said. So appreciate that, Tom. Appreciate your time. Enjoyed watching some of your highlights with Team New Brunswick. And as a St. FX X-Men commit, we're looking forward to working with you at St. FX for the next few years.
I'm really excited to get down.